Good morning, everyone. This is going to be our final Photoshop assignment. And then after that, we're going to move on to the InDesign portion of the class. After this week, we only have 4 weeks left to finish up the class. So we need to kind of finish up Photoshop this week and get going on InDesign. You will have a Photoshop quiz next week, but it's what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, creating a composite. I'm going to give you some images to do to create a composite image, and that will be your quiz. But I will give that out next week as well. Okay, so today we're going to work on some a little bit more advanced Photoshop. Photoshop options, doing like color correction, working with some selections. You're still going to be doing a composite image, but you're also going to be using some additional options in Photoshop, the adjustment layers, which allow, like I said, to help you adjust color, do color correction and that kind of thing on photos. And even on your composite images that you're working on as well. Okay, so the module is advanced, or the assignment is advanced Photoshop. It's under the Photoshop module. It is active now. I have provided a PDF with the instructions, as well as the instructions that are here on Canvas. And I was having a little issue with it reading a few minutes ago, the PDF. It looks like it's having a little bit of issue again. So again, you can download the PDF and have it on your computer and use that going back and forth working on the assignment. Okay, so the first thing we're going to work on is adjustment layers. I'm going to break this lecture up into 3 sections because there's 3 sections to the assignment, and I want to create a video lecture for each section so that you can watch that section and then move on to the next section. Okay, so adjustment layers give you greater control and flexibility over image edits than direct adjustments. Again, this is a non-destructive way to fix an image. You're adding an additional layer to the to your document in Photoshop, and it allows you to do adjustments on an image without affecting the original image. Okay, so you can do tonal adjustments, color adjustments, but it won't permanently change the actual image that you're using. Okay. So I've provided a zip file that has some images for you to download that you're going to use, for this assignment. I have a page set up here that talks about adjustment layers, gives you more detail about them. Go ahead and read that over. I've also added a link to a YouTube video for you to watch that will give you a little bit more explanation on adjustment layers as well. But just keep in mind, it's another way of non-destructive editing to adjust like colors in your image. If your image is overexposed or underexposed, which means too bright or too dark. If you want to do like an overall color change to an image, think of kind of like in a catalog or even on a website where you see a t-shirt and they have a model in a couple different versions of that t-shirt as well. And instead of reshooting or rephotographing the model each time in a different color shirt, they will take the picture of the one model and then go into Photoshop and use an adjustment layer and change the color of that particular shirt to match, other colors that they're actually selling. And it'll save a little bit of money on their end from having to reshoot or rephotograph the model each time. Okay, so that's kind of what adjustment layers are. And again, there's the video here for you to review at your own time. And then this gives you a little bit more explanation on how to create an adjustment layer, but I will show you that in once I get over to Photoshop. Okay, so this part of the assignment is using the levels adjustment layer on the layers panel. We're going to correct the exposure on the images that are in the folder. With the levels histogram as your guide, drag the sliders to fix the exposure. So I also have added a page that talks about histograms in Photoshop. Taking a few minutes for that image to show up. There should be an image here that comes up that gives an explanation of histograms. I probably will have to fix it because it's not coming up. Yeah, it's not coming up, so I will have to fix it. I've included a video as well that talks about histograms a little bit more. Yeah, the images didn't come up, so I will have to fix that. I will fix that after I'm done with the video. Okay. Actually, let me pause this. Okay, so I went ahead and fixed that, fixed the images. So they should show up for you now. Okay, so there's two images here. You can see what a histogram is. It's basically like a bar graph that goes from one end to the next. And it's just giving you information about the exposure on your image, whether it's underexposed, which means it's, and I always get them confused. Underexposed is when it's too dark, and then overexposed is when it's really, really bright. So if you think back to an image that you've seen where like the sky is really, really bright, that's an overexposed image. When everything is really, really dark in the image, it's underexposed. And that just means that there was either too much light or not enough light going into the camera when the picture was being taken. And your parts of your image aren't showing up, or they're really, really bright and you still don't see them because they're too bright. Okay. And then these other histograms here show you what a neutral exposure would be, where everything is kind of, it has its shadows, its highlights, and everything looks good. There's no one area that has too much light or not enough light. Everything is kind of in the middle. Okay. And when I work on the, show you the two images or a couple images that you're going to fix, it'll make a little bit more sense. Okay, so this is what the histograms would look like in Photoshop, depending on the exposure of your image. And then this one here just talks a little bit more about this areas of the histogram. So on your left-hand side, you have your shadows, which are the dark parts of your image. You have your midtones, which are, you know, in between light and dark. And then you have your highlights, which are the brighter areas of your image. Okay, so you can see here on this example image here, there is, well, let me back up here. On this one here, this one has a lot of information in the highlight area, which means you're going to have a lot of bright areas. And then when you get over here to the shadows, you're not going to have as many shadow areas. And this is represented here kind of in this image here as well, where you have a little bit of shadow area, and then you kind of move over to the right-hand side and you start getting a lot more brighter areas. And then there's this spike here in the brighter areas of the highlights. And you can kind of see that here on this image. There's kind of a brighter area here. And then you have a darker area over here and almost to where you can't see any detail. So when there is a lot of shadow, a lot of dark area on the image, you won't see a lot of detail. When you get into your midtones, that's when you start seeing some more details. And then when you get over to your highlights, you start losing a little bit of detail as well, because it's very, very bright in that part of the image. Okay. So this just talks a little bit more about the histogram. Go ahead and read this over. And again, I've included a YouTube video here for you to read. Yeah, read the video. A YouTube video for you to review a different perspective on histograms, gives you a little bit more detailed information. And then again, this is just more information on the histograms as well. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back to the assignment page. Oh, okay. Let me go back, because I keep switching back and forth between my view and the student view. All right, what's going on here? Back this way. Oh, come on. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's try this again. So I'm going to go to Photoshop. All right, hold on. Let me make sure that I'm in the right class. Yes, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so go back to Advanced Photoshop. Okay, so I'm gonna start working on the adjustment layers. I'm gonna break it up into three separate videos, so you can concentrate on one section of the video and then go back and watch the other two sections. Okay, so the first one that I'm gonna work on is the adjustment layers section. I'm gonna correct the color or correct the highlights and the shadows and the midtones on a couple images. And then the second part of this is you're going to change the color of an image, change the colors in two of the images. Okay, so let me go over to Photoshop. And I'm going to open up adjustment layers. Okay, so there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 images in that zip file. 4 of them you are going to be correcting the exposure on the images, and then the other 2 we're going to be changing the color of some of the elements in there in the images. Okay, so I'm going to open up the dark flowers first. Okay, so you can see on this particular image, it's kind of dark. You can't see a lot of detail of the flowers. There are some bright spots that you can kind of make out, but overall the image itself is pretty dark. Okay, so I'm going to go to my layers panel, and down here at the bottom of the layers panel is a circle. It's half black or half filled and half empty. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to get a pop down menu or a pop-up menu, and I'm going to scroll down to levels. And what that's going to do is it's going to add an additional layer to your layers panel. Okay, so you're going to see a little thumbnail over here. And then you're going to see the little icon for the layers adjustment, or the layers, I should not say layers, levels adjustment that we're going to work on. Okay, so it should pop up with this in your properties panel. If it doesn't, double click on the little crown icon, and it's going to bring up your properties panel for that particular adjustment layer. You can also go to your properties here on the panels on the right-hand side, and it'll bring that up as well. Okay, so here's an example of a histogram. We have a lot of information over here on the right, on the left-hand side, and very little information over on the right. So that what that means is there's a lot of shadow detail, or I shouldn't say shadow detail, but there's a lot of shadow area, dark areas in this image. Okay, so if I take and drag this slider here on the right hand side, the little arrow, or it kind of looks like a little yeah, it looks like an arrow. I'm going to drag that slider over to the left. And as I do that, you can see some detail starts coming back into the image. And you start seeing more of the flowers and more of the little plants that are in this image. So that's how easy it is to adjust the exposure of an image. Okay. So when you add that adjustment layer, so let me do that again. I'm going to delete this. Oops. So I'm going to delete that. Okay. So you're just going to come down here on the bottom of your layers panel, click on the adjustment layer icon here, which is the circle. Go to levels. And then you're just going to drag that slider on the right-hand side to the left until you get as much detail in the image as you want. Now it's subjective. It's up to you how you want the image to look. If you still want some darker areas, you can adjust this middle slider here. I wouldn't adjust the one on the left-hand side because all that's going to do is make it dark again. But you can adjust this middle one, which affects your midtones. And you can adjust this one over here on the left, which adjusts your highlights. Okay, so it doesn't have to be really, really bright and intense. If you want it a little bit darker, then just move those, you know, play with those sliders a little bit. Okay, so that's for that one. The next one is the overexposed face. So again, you can see on here, everything is kind of really, really bright. So we want to darken it up just a little bit so that we can bring in a little bit more detail to her face. Not so much the background. The background is really, really bright and blown out. We're not going to be able to add much detail to that. But at least a little bit more detail to her face. So again, the same thing, you're going to go on your layers panel and go to the circle, go down to levels. And here on this histogram, you can see that there is a lot of information on the right-hand side, but very little information on the left-hand side. So it's opposite of the flowers. So I'm going to drag this slider, the one on the left, I'm going to drag it to the right, and you can see it's brightening her face up just a little bit. And that's kind of what I'm more concerned with on this, not so much the background, because that background, you're never going to get that completely, you know, get the detail back in because of the way the photo was taken. It was intentional that this was kind of blurred out. But I want to see some more color back into her face. Okay, and then you can just adjust these. The middle slider, I wouldn't do anything to the one on the right because you see as I drag that one on the right, it goes completely bright and we don't want that. Okay, so just experiment with the histogram, get it to how you like it. It may look a little bit different on your screen than it does on mine, depending on what kind of, you know, if you're using a desktop computer or a laptop, you know, the screens are a little bit different on each of them. Okay, So I'm going to open up the next one, which are the rocks. Okay, so this one is kind of dark, but it also has some light areas that are overexposed. So you have some underexposed and some overexposed areas. So again, go to the layers panel, go to the circle, go to levels, double click on that. Oops. To bring up your, or click on your properties. Okay. And you can see here that we've got kind of even amount of information from 3/4 of the way on the left-hand side to the right-hand side. But then there's this spike here in the shadow area. So we want to kind of lighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to adjust this slider over here on the right-hand side. But I don't want to do it too much because this is starting to get blown out a little bit over here in the sky. Okay. Just a little bit. And then I'm going to adjust the one in the middle, so the midtones. And by adjusting that one in the middle, you can see it's bringing back some of the detail, a little bit of the detail. You don't want to go too much because then it's not, it's going to start blowing that out a little bit too. And then maybe adjust this one over here on the left just a little bit. Okay, like that. Okay, and again, this is all subjective, how you feel it looks. It looks good to you. There's no exact solution or not solution, but equation, or there's no exact rule for how you're gonna, you know, correct an image. Again, it's up to how it looks to you on the screen. If you want it to be a little bit darker, you know, you can do that. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. I'm just wanting you to experiment with these adjustment layers to see how that you can correct something without affecting the original image, non-destructive editing. Okay, so then the last one that you're going to do with the levels is the underexposed image. Again, go to your layers panel, click on the adjustment layer, and then go to levels. Go to your properties panel. And again, look at your histogram. So there is very, very little information over here on the right-hand side and a lot of information on the left. So I'm going to drag the slider from the right-hand side over to the right until I see a little bit more detail. Some of the darkness is being taken away. And then maybe adjust the midtones just a little bit. I don't think you need to adjust the shadows any, because then that's just going to make it look too dark again. But just, you know, experiment with these sliders and see how they look to your, you know, your liking. Okay. I may want this to be a little bit darker, just so it gives it a little bit more dramatic effect and has a lot more highlights than it does, you know, calls attention more to the highlights than the shadows. Okay. So that's the 4 that's working with exposure, fixing the shadows, the highlights, and the midtones. The next 2 are going to be working with the hue and saturation adjustment layer, which is going to allow you to change the overall color of an image without, you know, affecting the original image itself. Okay, so in the layers panel, you're going to click on the circle, and you're going to go to hue and saturation this time. Okay. Then if I go back to the properties, you're going to get this options here with a couple sliders. So you're going to have hue, which is going to change the overall colors of what's in the image. The saturation, so how much of the color, and then the lightness, how much like the shadows of the color is going to be. Okay. So the hue, I'm going to drag it to the left or the right, and you can see all of the overall image itself is being changed. Okay, so it's changing the color of the popsicles, it's changing the color of the background, it's changing the color of the different fruit that you see in there. So now instead of a red strawberry, we have a purple strawberry. But in this case, I'm just trying to change the color of the popsicles, because that's what I want changed, not the fruit. Maybe the plate itself, but I don't want the color of the fruit to be changed too much. Okay, so there is a way to remove some of this adjustment layer or adjustments, and then it will just make the changes on the, say, the popsicles in this case. Okay, so if I go back over to the layers panel, you'll see this little thumbnail here on the right-hand side of that adjustment layer. That is going to allow you to paint out parts of this adjustment layer settings and restore the, like the strawberries or the cherries or the blackberries back to their original color. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So Command or Control plus. I'm here on the little mask icon or thumbnail of the adjustment layer. So this is active. I've got the little bracket around it. I'm going to take my paintbrush, and this works the same way as when we were working on the layer masks. Okay. White or black paints out parts of an image, and white brings it back. So in this case, I want to make the strawberry back to red. So I have my paintbrush selected. I have my thumbnail icon here active for the adjustment layer. And then I'm gonna just take my paintbrush and come over here and paint on the strawberry. And you can see I'm painting away the purple. And then I got a little bit messy here and I went to the background. In this case, I'm just trying to get the strawberry back to the original color. So I'm going to press X on my keyboard, make my brush a little bit smaller, and come in here and bring back the green. Zoom in a little bit more. Bring the green back in, so there isn't that halo around. Okay, so I got a little bit of the purple back in there. I'm going to press X on the keyboard to switch back and forth. So it's just like when we were doing the layer mask assignment. To temporarily hide and reveal parts of an image. Okay, so there's the strawberry. I want to go back on the cherry. Bring that original color back. Now again, this is not required. This is just a little extra thing that, you know, obviously you don't want a purple strawberry. You don't know if that strawberry is rotten or radioactive. So you want to kind of bring back the red of the strawberry. And then same thing with the raspberry. Just paint over that. Another cherry. Okay. Again, this step is not required. Just something else to think about when you're, working with this, with the adjustment layers. You can take away part of the adjustment layer options, not options, but what you've changed with the adjustment layer, and bring back in the original color or parts of the original image. Okay, so I'm just going to do one more strawberry here. Okay, so for this one, the required part is to adjust the hue and saturation on the image to make it look different from the original one. Okay, so there's the original one, and there's the one with the adjustment layer. So it's not affecting the image directly. It's kind of like a piece of paper over the top of it where you've painted on it yourself. Okay, so that's what the adjustment layers are. All right, so there's the fruit pops. And then the last one for this section is the surfboards. You're going to do the same thing. Add an adjustment layer to hue and saturation. And then come over here on your properties panel and change the color of the surfboards. Now, if you want the background, the boards to remain brown and not give it a purple hue, then you're going to come over on the layers panel, go on the adjustment layer, layer mask thumbnail, take your paintbrush, make sure the foreground color is set to black, and then just paint back in the brown of the my goodness, my brain this morning. Bring back the brown on the wood slats behind the surfboards. Okay, and again, this is not required. I'm just looking for you to change the color of the image, overall image. Okay, so I'm gonna make my brush a little bit bigger so I can get this a little bit faster. Okay, so again, this part of it is not required. It's just an additional thing for you to experiment with the adjustment layers. Okay. All right, so this concludes the adjustment layer section of the Advanced Photoshop assignment lecture. And we'll come back in a few minutes with the next lecture for the second part of this assignment. Okay, again, any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. I still have that Photoshop assignment discussion board up. If you need it, have a question, you want to ask it there, you can. And I will respond to you there, okay? Or I will email you back the answer as well. Okay, so I will be back in a few minutes with the next section of this video.